So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Yin Yoga. So let's take a comfortable seat, finding that precious stillness that brings us home. Close your eyes and allow that movement of the eyelids closing or moving downward to bring your awareness inward. Let the belly soften completely as you inhale and exhale. And today I want you to pay attention to the breath as it moves toward the belly, toward the pelvic bowl. Try as best as you can not to forcefully take a deep breath, but allow the body to breathe as you become still and inward focused. And notice what you notice. In the stillness, there's clarity. There's flow. We have the ability to create what's called sattva. This word, Sanskrit word, means balance. Some people call it bliss. There's this evenness to you. You're not being pulled from one thing to another. You're completely content with sitting here in stillness. Allow the hands to float upward towards the heart, palms touching, thumbs at the breastbone. Glide the thumbnails along the skin upward towards the collarbones until you feel the rib cage floating slightly. Soften shoulders. Bow your head towards your own intention. Your time with you on the mat. May the class be exactly what you need. Take a breath and let the hands release. Flutter the eyes open and come back. All right, so as always, we're going to start lying on our back with a little somatic movement. So start with lying with your knees bent, with your knees touching each other. So we call this active rest pose. Just for a moment, give yourself another opportunity to become still and drop in. So once you do that, knees are touching, feet are apart. You don't have to adjust yourself and make it all perfect. Just find your resting place. Put your hands on your belly. And again, you can close your eyes if it helps you focus, taking that breath and deliberately now moving it downward towards the belly, expanding the breath. And as you exhale, slow, controlled. And if you notice, because it's morning time and we've been awake and maybe you've had some coffee or tea, that stimulates your central nervous system. And sometimes that exhale is not as long or as deep as you'd like it to be. And that just tells you that your nervous system is active. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just active. So we're going to tap into the vagus nerve today, working on the breath in the belly and the longer exhale. So yogis are very familiar with this technique. I taught a whole class, it was last year, maybe it was the year before, on the central nervous system. And it's related to, in the daily speak, if you will, as quote unquote stress. And stress is a loaded word. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. But if you peel it all down, basically what's happening is your body is in fight or flight. And that boils down to your central nervous system, and that boils down to your vagus nerve. So if we take it all apart and we come back to the source, if you will, the vagus nerve is what we call untoned. It is not functioning properly. So today we're going to work with this deep breathing, longer exhale, softening into stillness. Okay, so let's separate or bring the feet back to neutral. And I want you to bend one leg and leave the other leg, straighten one leg and leave the other leg bent. And your arms can be on your belly still, they can be down on the floor. But we're gonna work with, we need to take the hands behind the head, interlace the fingers so that your elbows are open. So the first part of this movement is we're going to take the knee drop it inward across the body towards the other side. And then as we inhale, we're going to come back up to center. Okay, so that's a simple movement. Try not to make it really big. You kind of roll to the inner edge of your foot. You take your knee across the midline until you feel a little bit of a stop. And then you come back up to the center. You'll feel your hip want to lift a little bit. Try not to push into the foot to make it get any higher. Somatic movement is small and very subtle. The next time your knee comes straight up, leave it there. Now I want you to take that same side elbow and we're going to glide along the floor, lifting that elbow upward up towards the wall that your head is facing. And then come back into the center on your inhale. Slide and glide, as my teacher calls it, and you're not necessarily lifting your head, but you're trying to glide along your sticky mat. And you're moving a lateral, what they call spinal flexion, but it's a lateral movement, trying to open up this side of the body. Now, the last three, I want you to do them together. So as the knee comes in, the elbow goes up, and you're inhaling. And as you exhale, knee comes back to center, and your elbows come back to neutral. So again, it's really small, really subtle. You might check yourself. Are you the type of person that hardly moves at all because, you're trying to make it so subtle that there's nothing happening? Or are you the kind of person that tends to try to go all the way to the edge and then maybe a little bit further? Okay, when you're done with that last round, bring your hands down, bring your leg down, and pause. And again, I just want you to notice what you notice. There might be some ease, there might be some flow, there might be some heaviness on that side, which means that your body let go a little bit. So let's try the other side. Bend the knee, hands behind the head again. We'll start with just the leg. So allow the knee to come across the midline, find your natural stopping point, and then inhaling, coming back up. And we're just moving in this subtle pattern. Nothing to worry about. We're just trying to massage this deep tissue that innervates the vagus nerve bundle. It's a bundle of nerves. It's not just one. All right, now pause the knee and start the arm. So you're inhaling and you're going up, gliding that other arm up along the floor, and then gliding back down on the exhale. Slide and glide. And come back. And as we move through this, try to keep it as smooth and clean as you can. Now do them both together. As the elbow moves up, the knee moves in. And as the elbows come back to neutral, the knee comes back to neutral. Inhaling as you start the movement, and exhaling as you release the movement. Last one. All righty. Now, once you're done, put your hands down again. Put your leg down. Just take a moment to reset yourself. What does it feel like now in my body? Check in with the breathing. So that's always going to be your regulation, is that how the breath feels and how deep is it going in the belly and how long is the exhale. These are the parameters, if you will. And that's what's going to give you your information when we're talking about the nervous system. All righty. So go ahead and bend your knees and roll to a side and come back up. So our first pose, they call it caterpillar. You're basically going to sit with your legs out in front of you and fold forward. But I like this but because so many people have lower back issues. It may not be optimal for you to put your legs all the way down and fold forward. Maybe it is, and that's fine. For me, it's not. So I'm going to take my blanket and roll it under my knees so that I've got some slack here so that I can hinge from my hips rather than completely collapse my spine. But in yin, remember, it's okay to round your back. You're not trying to not do that, like we would do that in a natural or a normal class. And then get your bolster if you have one, or your blocks, either one. Take a breath, and as you exhale, start to come forward and find a place where you can rest on something. So maybe you're all the way down and your arms can reach your feet or can rest down by your side body. That's fine. My body doesn't like that. I'm going to rest on my bolster, and I'm going to take my hands and pause my head on my hands. So I'm moving in this linear space forward towards my feet, but I want you to feel supported in whatever position you choose. And sometimes it takes a minute. You have to kind of fuss a little. Once you're there, you found your edge. Let go of the doing. Become still and notice. Taking your time, taking the time to reset our nervous system can be as simple as taking deep breaths. When we do a whole class like this, it really can have some juice, especially if you're focusing. So a class that has a specific target or specific focus can really give you a big bang for your buck. Remembering that word sattva, purity, balanced. I like to say ease and flow. There's movement happening, right? But it's this sweet space. And in the Ayurvedic world, we talk about moving in these opposite qualities. So tamas is this inertia, this I can't get out of my own way, I can't get off the couch. That's tamas. Oh, and the other word just flew right out of my head. I'll think of it in a minute. But the other direction is I can't stop moving. Very irregulated, too muchness. And then there's this sattva in the middle, and it comes from our mind. These are the qualities of the mind, the gunas. And we ebb and flow back and forth all the time. But the ideal would be that we hover somewhere in the sattva place more often than not. Easy to do in a yoga class, not so easy to do in day-to-day living. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly starting to make your way up. Our second yin practice, they call this deer pose. So you separate your feet, take your legs apart, and then just let them fall to one side. And then take off this back arm. Okay, so I'm going to swing around so you can see. I want my front leg to be in a 90-degree. And as much as I can, I want this back leg to be in a 90-degree. So I've moved it back, and my leg's in a 90. The easier version of this is just to bring your legs closer together. Okay, so the more they're open, the more 90-degree it is, the more challenging. So you decide. And then take this hand that you don't know what to do with. You can put it on your hand, on your leg. You can turn and put it on the floor. And what we're trying to do is not move forward over this front leg. We're actually trying to move away from it. So we've created a twist now in the whole spine with your hands on the floor, and you can stay right here. If that feels like too much, come here. Put your hand on your leg and just twist a little. If you feel like you can come all the way down on your forearms, do so. So we're trying to find that edge where we're talking to the body. Like, don't go too far. You might remember in the early days of teaching online, I would use the Goldilocks principle, right? Not too much, not too little, just right. You could say those are like the gunas, not too much, not too little, just right. And we're just breathing. So you might soften into the shape you put yourself in. And if you go too far, you know what happens? The body can't soften. The body's like, and that pushes your nervous system. That pushes you into this fight or flight response, stress response. And today, it would be lovely if we could bring that more into sattva, bring the nervous system into sattva, into balance. Because the reality is, we do go in and out of too muchness and too little. We do all the time. Our thinking is like that. Our physical movement is like that. Our day-to-day actions are like that. How many times do you sit on the couch and want to read a book, but your mind is like, you should get up and go do something. You should get up and clean the house. You should get up and do. Or you could be the other way around. You're doing too much and you'd be like, your mind's trying to tell you, like, you should really sit down and rest for a bit. Why don't you just go for a little walk? So it's always like that. And when we can find that sweet spot of balance, then we know our nervous system is working properly. When our nervous system is working properly, the body feels better. The systems work better. The mind feels more calm. Take one more breath. And then slowly unwind yourself. Come back up to sitting. Take this back leg up and around and just place it in front of your other leg just for a moment until you can kind of reset yourself. And then take this bottom leg and wrap it towards your bottom so that the knee is now facing forward. And you might stay right here. You might say, that's enough. Or you pick up your foot and bring it over here. The knee's gonna stay up. Okay, and we're gonna go now the other way. We're gonna twist the other way. So sit up nice and tall. Exhale, turn. Find a place to put your back hand, kind of like a kickstand. This knee is gonna wanna fall open and get lazy, so I want you to think about maybe holding it in place. Sometimes you could go under. If you're very flexy, you can hook. Extend your arm, bend your arm. It's early in the morning for me, so I'm gonna just stay here. So what prompted me to do this practice with you today is I came back from my travels to see my sister, and while I was gone, lots of things happened. Florida is not a restful, quiet time for me, seems anymore. And so when I came back, I had my body work session, and she basically didn't do any massage. She did all craniosacral work, all energy work, because, as she called it, my nervous system was all jacked up, which makes sense considering what happened while I was in Florida. So, you know, we can work on the physical body, you know, with all the foods and the exercise and all the things. We can work on the mental body with meditation or intentional reading or being with loving people. But to me, there's nothing wrong with any of that. That's all really good. They're all supports practices. But if we aren't paying attention to our central nervous system, it just breaks everything down. System by system. Could be your digestive system, could be your heart, could be your brain. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, go ahead and release. Unwrap your legs. Come back to the beginning where we had them straight out in front of us. And then take a moment. So the other thing that you might not know that most women care about is excess belly fat right here in the front of your body. If you have that and you're thinking to yourself, I take pretty good care of myself, I don't know why I have this excess weight. It's cortisol from the fight or flight, always being triggered. I'm talking to myself, but I'm also talking to lots of other people. All right, so let's do the other side. So remember, we started with the wide legs, and now drop them over to the other side. And again, I'm going to turn so I can see you. Front leg is pretty easy to put in that 90-degree. Back leg, maybe. So decide how you want to put yourself. And try not to collapse here. Not think about getting to the floor. Think about lifting and then turning. And once you get into that position, remember you can come down on your forearms. I'm not doing that today. I want you to become still. So these are more active poses when we're holding ourselves in a shape. You might notice, especially if you're more lifted, that there's more sensation in the front of the body with the breath. And you might even imagine that as you breathe, I've said this many times before, the diaphragm, as it moves up and down in this deeper fashion, it pushes against the internal organs that the vagus nerve is all connected to. And it gives it like a little massage. So I always think of it as like if you have something that's kind of sludged up and stuck in your system. In Ayurveda, we talk about the channels, and the channels getting clogged with what we call ama, which is toxic residue. And the channels can be your physical channels, like your blood, your veins, your arteries. It can be energetic channels. So what would it feel like if you could massage these channels and kind of move out the sludge, move out the sticky parts? So there's more space and there's more sattva, there's more balance, there's more purity. The cells can do what they want to do. The channels, the energetic channels can soften. The nervous system can tone. Powerful stuff for such simple things that we're doing. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, start to come up, moving yourself back. And take this back leg and bring it around and plant it in front of the front foot. And then take your foot closer to your bottom if you can, so that the knee is pointing more forward rather than out to the side. And again, you can stay here because remember we're going to twist, or if you like, you can go across. You want both pelvises sides to be down, right? You don't want to be all jacked up like that. And then take a deep breath, get nice and tall, and start to turn, looking for your edge here. Try not to let this leg just fall outward. So you're kind of holding it in place. And then you find your place where your sweet spot is. There's tension on purpose. If you continue to fuss, that usually tells you that you're just trying too hard. Soften it a little. Go back into the breath in the belly. Why do we pause in yin? We talk about this all the time. Why do we pause in yin? Why do we take that 2 to 3 to 5 minute stop? Pretty fascinating, actually. There's something called a phase change, where we're moving from the superficial into the deeper tissue. A phase change. And it happens at around 90 seconds. When we get into this deeper tissue, this deeper fascia, if you want to call it that, we stimulate proteins, 2 of them, collagen and elastin, that are in every single cell. The collagen is to build strength in the cell, and the elastin is to build elasticity in the cell. So it has that balance, right? And every cell is affected. The stronger and the more durable and the more supple your cells are, the more profound your health is. Bottom line. Isn't that interesting? It's like sattva in the cell. So we think about this as we breathe deep in the belly. We hold this position, not because we're trying to win some race of how long we can do something, but so that our physiology can actually respond to what we're doing. And when the physiology responds, the mind and the body feel septic, pure. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you're ready, unwind yourself. Pick up your legs, unwind your legs. Put your legs out in front of you. So I find all that really fascinating. When I do something, I like to understand why I'm doing it, because it helps me continue a practice. Oh, if I do this, I'm going to get this result, and this is why, rather than just doing something because somebody told me to do it. All right, we're going to move to Sphinx pose. And I've been offering this other option, totally up to you if you want to do it. You can lay on your belly and prop yourself up on your forearms like we always do. You could take a blanket or a bolster and you could put it underneath your pelvis. So I tend to go right at my pubic bone, and then I can be down here. I have less of a back bend, but if you have a lower back issue, that's actually not a bad thing. Or I can start to work towards increasing my back bend by coming up a little higher. So you guys all decide which it is you like to do. You might try the bolster or the blanket idea and go, yeah, I don't like it. Or you might try and go, it is amazing. Some days I like it, some days I don't. Wherever you are, shoulders down the back, I want you to feel those shoulder blades just wrapping in, kind of holding your back body. Soften all your effort. Soften your eyes. And if you can practice drishti, that meditation where you focus on just one little point, that will help bring your mind into balance. Bring your mind into a sattvic state. Rajas, I knew I would think of it. Rajas is the quality of the mind, one of the gunas where there's too much. Like running down the hill at full speed, can't stop. Rajas. And even the name kind of implies that, right? The word. Tejas is that lethargy that I can't get off the couch. And sattva is that balanced state. Working with sattva today and the vagus nerve, bringing the central nervous system into a rest and digest state. So as I was saying before, you can do all the things. But if your nervous system is all jacked up, like mine was, it isn't really going to matter. And while I was gone, I found myself, because I'm in this environment that's not conducive to healing and wellness. I'm in a different environment altogether. And I found myself being really easily tempted by the crazy things like, oh, I'm going to stop at Dunkin' Donuts and get a donut and a coffee. What? I don't do that. But there, felt like I was being pulled into a weird vortex. But that was my guna, that was my mind quality going a little wackadoodle. Because my nervous system wasn't balanced and calm. And I just watched this beautiful movie. If you guys are interested, it's called The Natural Law. It's all based on Ayurvedic teaching. It's a beautiful movie. I shared it on Facebook, but you might not be on Facebook. And they talk about the, intensity of our lifestyle now. And we have to work at being calm. That's crazy when you think of it. There's traffic and there's news and there's, crazy weather and COVID and all the things, right? There's just everything. Take one more breath. And if you've got the bolster under you, just leave it there and start to lower yourself down and come all the way down so that now your hips are higher than your head. Take a few breaths here. Feeling and sensing into that release. All righty. So I want you to slowly turn over on your back. We're going to use either a bolster or a block, depending on how your body feels. You could use a blanket, but it's not going to give you the same response. I'm going to show you with my bolster, only because it feels better on my body. But you're going to lift your hips up and put either the block on its lowest position or the bolster underneath your body. Now the block is smaller, so make sure it's on your sacrum. The bolster is bigger, so it's probably going to cover your lower back also, and that's fine. So find your sweet spot. Your shoulders are going to be relaxed and down. And we're still working in this belly area, okay? So I keep thinking about the deep breathing and how that really stimulates the vagus nerve. That's one of the quickest ways. The other way is to take your fingers, it could be your thumb or your first finger, and you're gonna go right behind your ear. You know where that little indentation is? Because you can feel your bone, right, the bone of your skull, right behind your ear. Can you feel that? So you massage right that tip of bone. You can even palpate it with your fingers. Right where the tip of that bone is, you can massage it. And I always wondered why my body worker works here. She's always working in this area on me. Well, guess what? This is the closest superficial place that the vagus nerve is. It's like right in this area where that indent is and right at that bony junction. So isn't that interesting? I never knew that until just recently, and then she's working on this thing and I was like, oh, that's so funny that she's doing that. All right, so leave that alone. Pick up your left knee and bring it towards your chest, and you can hook your hands around your knee or behind your knee, whatever you like to do. Just make sure it feels relaxed. And then slide your other leg down. See if you can get that leg all the way straight. And then adjust this top leg. It might want to fall out a little bit, or you might want to pull on it a little bit more. We're getting into this deeper tissue in the belly now. And so what I don't want you to have is that pinching in your lower back. If you have that, you might want to adjust what's underneath you or lower it. My bolster, I have a rectangle bolster, so it actually supports my lower back while I'm in this position. It feels really good. Take the breath down into the belly, but pay more attention to the right side. Let go of your leg, so don't worry about what your leg is doing. Just let it be relaxed. And as the body starts to soften a little bit, you might notice, well, the knee could come a little closer, or if your leg didn't go all the way down, it might slide further away. Again, I think about these channels and these tissues that are they're locked, they're clogged up, and it creates a lot of tightness, tension, stiffness. Most of the time, the stiffness that you feel in your body isn't from your muscles. It's from your connective tissue and this ama that's kind of stuck in there. And so we're breathing and we're becoming still. Remember that phase change place. You can close your eyes and get deeper in. All right, take one more breath. And then the leg you're holding, I want you to gently put it down on the floor and slide the other leg up. Just pause there for a minute. If I'm working with a block, sometimes I have to lift off the block and put my hips back down because the pressure against the sacrum can feel too much for me. And then when you feel ready, you can bring your other knee up, find your holding spot, and then slide the other leg down. And then again, just finding that stillness. We want to make sure that there's tension. So find a place where you can hold where there's enough tension that you can feel something happening. I'm always fascinated, I don't know if you feel this way, but when I finally stop moving and then I just kind of let go, I can feel parts of my inner body just soften. Like, oh, you don't even know you're holding onto anything. We're feeling and softening into whatever's present in our physical body, in our mental body, in our emotional body. Take a nice deep breath. And then just slowly let go of the leg you're holding. Glide the other one up. Now you can keep whatever you have underneath you if you like, or you can slide it out. We're gonna go back to active rest position. So knees together, feet apart. Hands come on the belly. And maybe take 3 to 5 nice deep breaths here. Working with that breath moving down into the belly and that longer exhale. Alrighty. So allow that to let go. If you got the bolster block underneath you, lift your hips up and push them away so your hips can come all the way down. And then just finding your feet on the floor. Take a moment here. Maybe go all the way down. So the legs are down, the arms are down, like you're in Shavasana. So do a little check-in. Alrighty, then bend your knees and roll to a side. We're gonna come up to sitting one more time. We're gonna do the other forward fold. That's very, very good for nervous system, brain calming, and that's butterfly. So I like to use my bolster with butterfly. You can also stack your blocks here and put your head on your blocks. Your feet are together and not close to you. Move them away from you a little bit. You want to be able to move forward because it's the forward folding that's the juice here. So once you're set up, take a deep breath, and as you exhale, come forward. Now you might choose this time to put your head in your hands. You might choose this time just to let your head go. Taking that moment to find that sweet spot. And when I'm in this pose, I get the most out of when I use my blanket. I walk my arms forward so that I can feel that tension across my entire back. Finding sattva, balance, purity, bliss. moving towards that deep connection. Take a deeper breath. And slowly starting to come back up. Bring your legs together. Last time, stretch your legs down. Rotate your ankles, maybe shift a little bit. And then we're going to move back to the floor. Excuse me. So once you're down on the floor, finding that resting place, you can reset your pelvis if that feels good to you. Let your arms be away from your body. You can have them in a T shape or you can have them in a cactus shape. And allow the legs to just move to one side. Now you could stay there if that feels good to you. Or you could take your top leg and bring it forward so that it's kind of landing on top of the other leg, creating a deeper action. This is where you could use your block or your blanket, either between your legs or under your legs. If you've got space like I do in between, you should put something between them or under. And you're just gonna wait here for about a minute or so, maybe a minute and a half, get to that 90-second place. Drawing into that deep awareness. Are you striving too much? Are you in that pushing place into rajas? Or are you just hardly doing anything at all into almost too much tejas, too much inertia? It shows up on our mat what we do in the world. And we only know ourselves so well, right? But when other people bring consciousness, like my body worker telling me, for me, it brings pause. I don't just shrug it off like it's not important information. I try to really think about what's going on and shift. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly making your way back to center. Reset yourself as you need to. And then let your legs go the other way. And as I always say in class, your sides are not the same. So don't assume you can do the same thing on each side. Decide if you want your legs apart or do you want your legs closer together. And pause here. Noticing the body letting go, noticing the releasing that's happening. All right, slowly make your way back up. Bring your arms down and let your knees come to your chest. Find a way to hold your legs so that you feel contained, like a little container. I like to hold my wrists, but other people like to do other things. So just pause here. And as you feel ready, let your legs come down and move into Shavasana. If you're able to, you can put your legs all the way down and back into that first position. If you've never used your bolster at your feet, it's a nice thing to do. I put my feet against the bolster and then just push my legs until my legs are straight and my feet have a place to be. It feels a little bit like a grounding action. And then the other thing you can do here, especially if you like to feel grounded, is you can take your hands to the top of your head and gently push. So if you've got your feet on the bolster and your hands on your head, you've got a container. And then let it all go and relax. Take a deeper breath. And take one more breath into the belly. Really feel that connection, that deep sattvic state. And as best as you can, hold on to that while you start to awaken and move, bringing yourself back. Bending your knees, rolling to a side. Find your way to sitting. If you're having a hard time coming out of that, it's a really good sign. Really good sign that your nervous system did a little shift, did a little shimmy dance, reset itself. Once you're seated with the eyes closed, bring your hands to your heart center. Again, sliding those fingernails up the skin a little bit towards the collarbones, feeling the front body rise, back body soften, bowing the head. In this new sattvic state, so much gratitude for our time on the mat, our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.